It's easy to look back on past mistakes and recognize them for what they are.
Was Andy Dalton a great fit? I mean, he was a fit, right? And I don't see a whole lot of difference between Andy Dalton and Derek Carr.
Unfortunately for NFL GMs, there's no mulligan on the many big-time mistakes that they made earlier this offseason. So with that, let's dive into 10 massive 2023 NFL offseason moves that teams are already regretting. Panthers trade up to snag Bryce Young first overall. Looking to find their next franchise quarterback, the Carolina Panthers gave up a king's ransom to the Chicago Bears for the first overall pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, which was used on Alabama QB Bryce Young. Owner David Tepper had hoped that pairing Young with a new head coach and renowned offensive guru Frank Reich would help the Panthers return to relevance in the NFC. Well, less than a year later, Reich was fired after a 1-10 start. Young has stood no chance behind an offensive line that couldn't block a traffic cone. 33-year-old Adam Thielen is the team's only pass catcher that's producing anything. Free agent signing Miles Sanders, coming off a career year in Philadelphia, lost the RB1 job to Chuba Hubbard. Oh, and the Panthers' 2024 first-round pick going to Chicago is gonna be a top 2 selection at this point. That means Carolina will have missed out on USC's Caleb Williams or North Carolina's Drake May. Woof. Jeez, talk about an atrocious use of resources. Saints signed Derek Carr for $150 million. After 2 years of a revolving door at quarterback, the New Orleans Saints swung for the fences and handed former Las Vegas Raider Derek Carr a 4-year deal worth $150 million, including $70 million in guaranteed money. Well, that didn't take long for the Saints to feel buyer's remorse over this. Carr hasn't even been half the quarterback that we saw for nearly a decade in Vegas. And as a result, New Orleans is likely to miss the postseason for a 3rd straight year despite playing in football's literal worst division. And despite the luxury of playing one of football's softest schedules this year. Carr's production has been below mediocre all season long. He's also refusing to own up to his own mistakes, as he's often seen screaming at his own teammates when he's the one who's not performing up to his usual standards. Carr has also become injury-prone too, having left games against the Packers, Vikings, and Lions with an injury. When Jameis Winston came in to relieve Carr, the offense seemed to operate much more efficiently. So the Saints are stuck with a burdensome $150 million deal, and they once again passed on the obvious need to rebuild. Raiders give Jimmy Garoppolo $72.75 million. After releasing Carr, the Raiders thought that they were upgrading at QB by signing an inferior Garoppolo to a 3-year deal worth $72.75 million. Now, the contract looked like a disaster at the time. And yeah, it looks even worse now. Did the Raiders forget that this ultra injury-prone guy has only played a full season once? And that he has never thrown for 4,000 passing yards nor 30 TDs in a single season? Needless to say, it did not take long for the Raiders to regret this move. Garoppolo missed 2 games to injury, then got benched in favor of rookie Aiden O'Connell after a Week 8 road loss to the Detroit Lions. Garoppolo went 3-6 in his starts and threw for just 1,205 yards and 7 touchdowns against 9 picks for a 78.1 QB rating. And that right there would mark his worst in the season since becoming a starter. Jets used first-round pick on Will McDonald IV. Having landed Aaron Rodgers in a blockbuster deal with the Green Bay Packers, the Jets' primary goal should have been to fix up their woeful O-line or to add another offensive weapon for the 4-time MVP. But instead, the Jets used the number 15 pick on Iowa State defensive end Will McDonald IV, even though the front 7 was the least of their concerns. McDonald has seen roughly 16% of the Jets' defensive snaps and about 1/3 of their special team snaps. So, yeah, why did a team in win-now mode use a pick on a position that was already a strength, knowing darn well that they weren't going to use it much anyway? Patriots swapped Jacoby Myers for Juju Smith-Schuster. In the latest edition of Bill Belichick has no idea what he's doing with wide receivers, Jacoby Myers was the New England Patriots' top receiver from 2020 to 2022, surpassing the 50-catch and 700-yard marks both times. This included an 83-catch, 866-yard campaign in 2021. Myers was Mac Jones' favorite and most reliable target during the latter's first 2 seasons. But Belichick screwed his QB by letting Myers join the Raiders on a 3-year deal worth $33 million. To replace the big-bodied receiver, Belichick gave the injury-prone Juju Smith-Schuster the same deal. $33 million over 3 years. While Myers has been the perfect number 2 pass catcher to Devontae Adams in Sin City, Smith-Schuster, well, he's been practically invisible in New England. He is seeing less than 2/3 of the team's total offensive snaps, isn't even a regular starter, and is basically posting 1/4 of the receiving yards per game that he averaged in Kansas City a year ago. Smith-Schuster had 25 catches for 170 yards and a touchdown through his first 10 games with the Pets. With no game-changing weapons at his side, Jones has also lost his starting job and will most certainly be on a new team next year. So, how did swapping out Myers for Smith-Schuster work out, Mr. Belichick? This had to go down as his last great mistake in New England. You know, assuming that Belichick doesn't return next year. Chiefs replace Orlando Brown Jr. with Jawaan Taylor. The Chiefs let 4-time Pro Bowl offensive tackle Orlando Brown Jr. walk to free agency, and he wound up signing with the rival Cincinnati Bengals on a bargain 4-year pact worth $64 million. To replace Brown Jr., the Chiefs curiously gave an even bigger contract to an interior offensive lineman in Jawaan Taylor, landing the former Jacksonville Jaguar on a 4-year deal worth $80 million. Though KC still boasts one of the best interior offensive line units in football, Taylor has been a major liability at tackle. Through KC's first 12 games, Taylor had allowed 3 sacks while committing a ridiculous 16 penalties according to Pro Football Focus. As well, PFF graded Taylor at 52.5 through those 12 games, meaning the $80 million man is playing as a backup caliber player. Clearly, the Chiefs' bold idea of swapping out Brown Jr. for a more expensive and less reliable offensive lineman has not worked out. Brett Veach may be the NFL's best GM right now, but this has been by far his biggest swing and a miss. Raiders take Tyree Wilson at number 7 overall. The Raiders were desperate for another game-changer on defense to complement superstar edge rusher Max Crosby. It felt like they found their guy in Texas Tech Tyree Wilson, whom they selected at number 7 overall. Now, hindsight's 20/20, but, well, that move certainly has become regrettable.
Yes. Hey!
Through his first 12 games, Wilson had just 1.5 sacks and 1 forced fumble while playing less than half of the Raiders' defensive snaps. As well, PFF graded him at a horrible 42.2, meaning that he's simply done way more bad than good when he's on the field. Again, why would you use a valuable pick on a guy that you weren't planning to use much in the first place? Bears gift Tremaine Edmonds with $72 million. Edmonds certainly carried the buyer beware label well before free agency opened. That was always going to be a lot of money for an off-ball linebacker whose last Pro Bowl season came in 2020. Secondly, it didn't take a genius to figure that Edmonds looked better than he really was because of his star-studded supporting cast in the Buffalo Bills defense. And yep, sure enough, he has been exposed as a merely average linebacker since joining the Bears. Not only are his usually stellar stats nothing close to what we saw in Buffalo, but the good folks at PFF are no fans of Edmonds, who barely grades out as a below-average level player. Chargers take the wrong receiver in round 1. With the number 21 selection in the draft, the Los Angeles Chargers decided to land another weapon for superstar signal caller Justin Herbert. They settled on TCU's Quentin Johnston, the second receiver taken right after the Seattle Seahawks took Jackson Smith-Njigba at number 20. Now, JSN has been an absolute stud in Seattle. The next 2 guys taken after Johnston, wide receivers Zay Flowers and Jordan Addison to the Baltimore Ravens and Minnesota Vikings respectively, who at this moment look like rising stars themselves. Making Johnston's lack of production frustrating is the fact that the Chargers lost top wideout Mike Williams for the year in Week 3 with a torn ACL. Yet, even with the opportunity to step up as a playmaker, Johnston just isn't getting open and making zero impact. With Williams returning next year, there is no guarantee that Johnston will be any better in year 2. Giants extend Daniel Jones for $160 million. Another classic case of, it seemed like a good idea at the time. The Giants were convinced that Dable had unlocked Jones's potential. So the 2019 first-round pick got a $160 million extension over 4 years. A whopping $82 million of that coming in guaranteed money, too. Before Jones suffered a season-ending ACL tear against the Las Vegas Raiders in Week 9, he was piecing together the worst year of his young NFL career. A personal worst, 151.5 passing yards per game, a career worst, 70.5 QB rating, and a ridiculous 30 sacks taken in just 6 games. The dual-threat QB also averaged 10 less rushing yards yards per contest compared to his 2022 campaign. Turns out, 2022 wasn't Jones's breakout year. It was simply a mirage. But what other offseason moves are NFL teams already regretting? Let us know in the comment section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps out a ton. And hey, we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching and we'll see you guys next time.